Welcome to Real World, Real Talk with Dr. D.Z. Cofield. The show represents captivating conversations and insightful information to encourage and inspire you with all you need to become the best you can possibly be. And now, your host for Real World, Real Talk, Dr. D.Z. Cofield.
Welcome to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, DZ Cofield, Senior Pastor of the Good Old Missionary Baptist Church, and I want to welcome you to KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com for what promises to be an exciting show. Now, listen, I'm getting ready to get started. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil because I'm going to give you a list, some information that can change your life. I promise you, if you want to be a successful person, if you want to be a more successful person, if you want to overcome some things that have been holding you back, I've got the information for you on tonight. You don't want to miss it. So get your paper, get your pencil, get your pen, call a family member, friend, and let them know they want to tune in to KTSU right now, and listen to Real World, Real Talk. Now, just a couple of housekeeping matters before I get started. If you like to follow me during the week, you can follow me on Instagram at DZ Cofield. You can follow me on Twitter at DZ Cofield, and you can follow me on Facebook at, you guessed it, DZ Cofield. Man, so many things are going on, but please don't forget, THTRF, Texans Helping Texans Recovery Fund, THTRF.com. Listen, you want to make sure that you sign up and get the help that you need. We're in the last week, y'all. Last week, statute of limitation is running out. You remember Winter Storm Uri 2 years ago in 2021. Over 600 people died as a result of Winter Storm Uri and the power failing. Evidence is showing that these power companies manipulated the opportunity and made $55 billion. Can you imagine that? $55 billion in 2 weeks. $55 billion in profits. Profits, y'all. Not gross, net. $55 billion. And then turned around and said to the Public Utility Commission, which all of the energy companies run and own, you're talking about asking the fox to watch the chicken coop. They went to the Public Utility Commission and said, listen, we took a loss because we had to winterize and we had to do all this work. And so we got to pass that cost on to the consumers. Absolutely insane. THTRF.com is the website to go to, THTRF.com, and you can register and file your claim to be part of a mass litigation lawsuit. Now listen, it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay anything. All you need to do is have a utility bill. You can go online and find a utility bill from 2 years ago or request it if you don't have a record of it. All you have to do is find that you lost power and or you suffered loss as a result of Winter Storm Uri. If you do that, here's what I know. They'll send you the information that you need and get you signed up. Now, you may be thinking, well, listen, Pastor, I can't find all that information. I know I have my stuff. I just got to put my hands on it. Here's what you need to do. Call 346-708-8189. That is the Houston-based call center. It's open 7 days a week. 346-708-8189. One more time. 346-708-8189. Call that number or go to the website, THTRF.com. Get that information in because it'll help recover some of the funds that you spent. Energy companies overcharge people 900 times what the power rate should have been 900 times. This group is trying to recover at least 50% of what you spent. And that's for everything that wasn't covered by your insurance. If your insurance undervalued your loss, you got records. Somebody that's listening right now, you had to do major home repairs because of pipes that bursted in your home. I know one lady, thank God for her son and the favor of God, senior, who lost everything in her home, entire house destroyed, had to be taken to the studs because of damage, because of the loss of power in her home. Somebody else who's listening, you had to replace your refrigerator. All the food went bad. You had to replace your food. All of that you are eligible to get. Man, listen, call that number right now, 346-708-8189. Tell them you heard about it on Real World Real Talk. We've been talking about this for now over 2 years, and I don't want you to miss this opportunity, all right? So make sure you give them a call. Now, listen, don't forget, membership is 365 days a year. 365 days a year. You don't have to wait for a campaign to become part of the KTSU family. Just go to ktsuradio.com or download the KTSU app wherever you get your apps. Download the KTSU app and click membership. You want to join, you want to become a member, or text the word member to 713-313-4354. Text the word member, MEMBER, to 713-313-4354 and become a member. Now, listen, I came across this information. It actually came out of a prep that I was doing for a message around the challenges that people have to overcome. And one of the groups of people that we don't typically think of having to have to overcome challenges are successful people. Somehow we think successful people are different from us because their lives were not touched by tragedy or difficulties or challenges. They just had it easy, and that's how they became successful. And so many of you who may be listening, or maybe you know somebody who literally looks back at their life and says, you know what? I could have been successful if I didn't have these obstacles, if I didn't have to overcome these challenges. And so tonight, I want to give you a list, 7 challenges successful people overcome. 7 challenges successful people overcome. Now, here's what's fascinating. When we think about successful people, one of the things we have to learn is that successful people know how to approach problems. Where other people see impenetrable barriers, successful people see challenges to embrace and obstacles to overcome. They're confident in the face of hardship. And they have that confidence because they have the ability to let go of the negativity that holds many people hostage and holds many people back. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, that there are many of you who are listening right now. What's holding you back are not enemies on the outside, but the negativity that you need to overcome on the inside. Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania has studied this phenomenon more than anyone else has. And he's found that success in life is driven by one critical distinction: whether you believe that your failures are produced by personal deficits beyond your control, or that they are mistakes you can fix with effort. Now, let me say that again because I don't want you to miss this. Your ability to overcome in life and be successful is in many instances tied to whether you believe that your failures are produced by personal deficits beyond your control, or that they are mistakes you can fix with effort. There are many of you who are listening right now who look at your life and you see mistakes, and we all make mistakes. But many times, people who are not successful see those mistakes as personal deficits that are beyond their control. In other words, you don't think there's anything you can do about it. Successful people look at their mistakes and say, what do I need to do to fix it? And how much work do I have to need to put into it? So if I make a mistake, how can I fix it and then make sure that I don't make that mistake again? Success requires emotional intelligence. You might have read that somewhere. It's called EQ. And there are millions of people who are successful in life who test in the top 90% of people regarding what kind of EQ they have or emotional intelligence. So tonight, I want to help somebody. 7 challenges successful people overcome. Now, the author of this article is a gentleman by the name of Travis Bradberry. He's a PhD and award-winning author of Emotional Intelligence 2.0 and the co-founder of Talent Smart EQ, the world's leading provider of emotional intelligence tests and training that serves more than 75% of Fortune 500 companies. Here's one of the things I've learned in life. It's a real simple principle. If you want to be successful in life, start doing and acting like successful people do, right? Because typically they do things in a way that help them to be successful in life. And so if you're doing it to be successful, why wouldn't I want to do it to be successful? Because the best chance I have at being successful is following your lead. All right. So let's look at 7 things that successful people have learned to overcome. Here's the first one. It's a biggie for some of you. Don't miss this. Age. Number 1 is age. Age is really just a number. Now, here's what Dr. Bradbury says, and I've seen in life. Successful people don't let their age define who they are and what they are capable of doing. Whether you're really old or really young, here's what you need to know. Don't let age stand in the way. There's somebody who's listening right now, and somebody said to you, you know what? You're too old. Hey, listen, Caleb coming out of Egyptian, coming out of bondage, coming out of that 40-year journey in the wilderness, after coming out of Egyptian bondage, they didn't go into the promised land. Caleb, 80 years old, said, hey, man, give me that mountain. 80 years old, right? And then there are some who are told, you're too young. You're too young. You gotta pay your dues. You have to do some other things. Here's what I want to encourage somebody to do. Follow your heart and be led by your passion, not how somebody else is living, but how you want to live your life so that you can be successful in life. Don't worry about what somebody else says. Let me give you an example. There were many young people who wanted to get actively involved in a local civil rights organization. And many of them said, we need to be accepted. And why won't the older people accept us? Here's one of the challenges in life that I've learned. Many times, especially with older people, it's hard to welcome younger people because you have to accept your own mortality and your own limitations. Here's what I told them. Stop asking us for permission to do what you believe God is telling you to do. You don't need our permission. Listen, if somebody won't let you in their organization, start your own organization. Do your own thing. If there's not room for you over here, do what God is telling you to do over there and trust God as he moves in your life. So the first thing successful people overcome is age. They don't let anybody tell them they're too old. They don't let anybody tell them they're too young. They just do what they believe they've been put on this planet to do. They follow their purpose, they follow their dreams, and they make it happen. regardless of the opinions of other people. Here's the second thing, and it leads right into it. Successful people overcome what other people think. Watch this. When your sense of pleasure and satisfaction are derived from comparing yourself to others, you are no longer the master of your own destiny. Somebody missed it. Let me say it again. When your sense of pleasure and satisfaction are derived from comparing yourself to others, you are no longer the master of your own destiny. Listen, I know it's impossible to turn off your reactions to what other people think of you. But here's what I will say. You don't have to hold up your accomplishment to anyone else's, and you don't need anybody else's approval. Their opinion of you really doesn't matter. So whatever other people say about you, whatever they think, whatever they do, you have to make sure your self-worth is not based on what other people say about you, but is based on what God says about you, right? That you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your self-worth has to come from the inside. Successful people know that caring about what other people think is really a waste of time and a waste of energy. When successful people feel good about something that they've done, they don't let anybody's opinion take that away from them. They don't let anybody else's criticism or negativity rob them of their joy. They don't run around going to other people say, what do you think about this? Do you like this? Do you like this? They have their own sense of satisfaction from within because they are successful. No matter what other people think of you at any particular moment, one thing is certain. You're never as good or as bad as they say you are. So here's what I need you to remember. If you live for the approval of other people, you will die from their rejection. If you live for their approval, you'll die from their rejection. Here's the second thing. My cardiologist, Dr. Coda Reddy, told me this. He said, Reverend, always remember, other people's opinion of you is none of your business. Whatever their opinion is, it is what it is. It doesn't matter. It's none of your business. Whatever their opinion is, they can hold on to it. They can keep it. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be successful, you can't worry about what other people think. Here is the third thing. Number 3, toxic people. Successful people overcome toxic people in their lives. Successful people believe in a simple notion. Now, listen to this and write this down somewhere because this is going to help somebody right now. Here's what successful people believe. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, which means what? If you surround yourself with negativity, if you surround yourself with toxicity, guess what? It's going to affect you. Think about it. Some of the most successful companies in recent history were founded by pairs of people who were positive and encouraging of one another. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak founded Apple together. They lived in the same neighborhood, right? Bill Gates and Paul Allen, who founded Microsoft, met in prep school. Sergey Brin and Larry Page, who founded Google together, met at Stanford. That's where they met. Just as great people help you to reach your potential, toxic people drag you right down with them. So whether it's negativity, a cruelty, the victim syndrome, or just plain craziness, toxic people create stress and strife that should be avoided at all costs. Successful people are challenged by toxic people, but they are never overcome by toxic people. If you're unhappy with where you are in your life, take a look around you. See who's surrounding you. More often than not, the people you surrounded yourself with are at the root of your problems. You'll never reach your peak until you surround yourself with the right people. Here's what I like to tell people. You'll never fly with eagles if you surround yourself with turkeys. You've got to make sure that you understand, in order for you to be your best, you got to surround yourself with the best you can. And here's one of the things that I've learned. Many times in life, we can't get to where God wants us to be. And the reason we can't get there is because, listen carefully, we only surround ourselves with people who agree with us, not people who will challenge us and encourage us to be our best. So many times we are surrounded by people who are, in essence, telling us, man, I understand what you're going through. I understand. You're right. You're right. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes you're wrong. And you need to surround yourself with people who are positive in terms of their influence, positive in terms of their aspirations and their achievements, so that they can serve as an example, a model for you to follow. Get rid of toxic people, people who will hold you back because of their actions or their attitudes. Here's the fourth challenge that successful people overcome. Successful people overcome fear. Fear. Now, here's what's interesting about fear. Fear is nothing more than a lingering emotion that's fueled by your imagination. That's fear. Danger is real, but fear is a lingering emotion that's fueled by your imagination. Matter of fact, here's what psychologists have told us. When you are afraid of something, it's normally more than one thing that you're afraid of. It's normally multiple things. And you start worrying about those multiple things, even though only one of them is going to happen. That's why we're told that worrying is worthless, because you're worrying about things and wasting your worry about things that will not happen. Just wait for whatever is going to happen, and then direct all your energy to dealing with that one thing instead of worrying about 10 things and wasting energy on 9 things that won't happen. Right? It's the uncomfortable rush of adrenaline you get when you almost step in front of a bus. Here's what I want you to know. Fear is a choice. Fear is a choice. Successful people know this better than anyone does, so they flip fear upside down. They typically are addicted to the euphoric feeling they get from conquering their fears. Some people, when they're afraid, they quit. They go into a shell. Successful people see fear and they get that adrenaline rush and they're like, all right, let's get it on. Let's make it happen. Don't ever hold back in life just because you feel scared. I hear people say, what's the worst thing that can happen to me? Will it kill me? But watch this. Death isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst thing that can happen to you is allowing yourself to die inside while you're still alive. Somebody missed it. Let me say it again. Death isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst thing that can happen to you is allowing yourself to die inside while you're still alive. I mean, can you imagine it? How does it get any worse than that? Walking around alive, but dead on the inside. Fear. Successful people conquer fear. They don't let fear control them. They don't let fear manipulate them. They take fear on because they recognize and know that fear is a choice. The one way in life to guarantee you won't be successful is to not try or to quit too soon. And can I tell you something? Fear will scare you into not trying. You'll become your own worst enemy. You'll kill your own dreams because of fear. Or you'll start and then talk yourself out of what you know you really want to do. Why? Because of fear. Listen, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back in just a minute, and I'm going to get to number 5. You don't want to miss it. You want to stay with me. I promise you, this list is going to change your life. You're listening to Real World, Real Talk on your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. Welcome back to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DZ Cofield. I want to thank you for being with me on your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. Now, today we're talking about the 7 challenges successful people overcome. Contrary to popular opinion, successful people have challenges in life. But instead of being overcome by those challenges, they have learned how to overcome those challenges. I'm sharing research with you on tonight from Travis Bradberry. He's a PhD author who has written the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. He's the co-founder of Talent Smart EQ, the world's leading provider of emotional intelligence tests and training, serving more than 75% of Fortune 500 companies. His best-selling books have been translated into 25 languages and are available in more than 150 countries. So here's what I thought. Since I couldn't get Travis Bradberry on, let me share with you some of the research and the findings that he has discovered. Emotional intelligence, very, very important, really has to deal with our mental wellness and our ability to adjust and handle situations that come our way. So, 7 challenges successful people overcome. Number 1, age. They don't allow age to hinder them or keep them from doing what they believe is their purpose in life and living. You see old people who have started late in life who are successful because they had a dream. You see young people, some of whom never went to college. They have a dream. They did it and they're successful. Now, here's the one caveat I want to give to somebody. If you have a dream and you have a passion, don't make other people responsible for caretaking your dream and your passion. You know, so many times in life, we say, yeah, this is what I believe needs to happen. And then you want somebody else to pay the price for your decision when you don't have the discipline to do what you say is your purpose in life. So make sure you have purpose in mind and you have the discipline. But don't allow somebody to say you're too young or you're too old to do what you believe you have been destined to do. Do everything you can to follow your dream, exercise the discipline, and be able to do what you feel like you have been destined to do. Number 2, what other people think. Successful people overcome what other people think. They don't live for the approval of others because they've learned if you live for other people's approval, you will die from their rejection. There's something internal that drives successful people. And watch this. They don't ever have to run around and say, yeah, I did this, I did this. There's almost this quiet confidence that they have in knowing that they have been successful, that they have not compared themselves to somebody else. Because once you compare yourself to somebody else, you are no longer the master of your own destiny. So here's what they say. No matter what other people are thinking or doing, their self-worth doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. and they don't allow other people to define who they are. They define themselves. Number 3, toxic people. Successful people overcome having toxic people in their life. As a matter of fact, listen, many times toxic people simply say, you know what? You're out of my life. I don't have to tell you we're not going to talk anymore. You just block the number. I'm not going back to those places. I'm not hanging out with those people. You can never reach your full potential in life when you allow toxic people to drag you down with them. And that's what toxic people will do. You've heard the saying, misery loves company, right? So if you're unhappy where you are in life, take a look around. Remember what I said, successful people say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're spending the most time with toxic people, chances are you're toxic. You don't want to surround yourself with toxic people. Number 4, fear. Fear. And remember, fear is nothing more than a lingering emotion that's fueled by your imagination. Danger is real. Fear is a choice. Let me say it again. Danger is real, but fear is a choice. And the worst thing in life is allowing fear. Somebody used this acronym to define fear. FEAR. False evidence that appears real. The worst thing in life is to let fear hold you back. And can I tell you something? I'm going to make a confession to you. For a lot of years, I've allowed fear to hold me back. Now, you may look and say, man, Pastor, you're successful. You're doing, no. It hasn't always been that way. And it hasn't always been that way in every area of my life. As a matter of fact, I've just branched out on some things just recently. Started offering classes to teach and train pastors on revitalizing the post-pandemic church and working with several organizations with grants and some other things, right, to really take this part of my life to the next level. But there was a little bit of fear that who's going to come to the class, a fear that they really won't find it to be a blessing. And listen, nothing has been further from the truth. Man, the class has been overrun with people. People are like, man, this thing, the only thing I'm sorry about, Pastor, is that I didn't get this 15 years ago, right? It would have saved me a lot of trouble and heartache. And I'm saying all that to say, stop killing your own dreams. Like, there's enough obstacles out here for you to overcome to become the killer of your own dream. And that's what fear will do. All right. We're at number 5 now. I gave you the first 4. Let's pick up now. Number 5. Successful people overcome negativity. They overcome negativity. Listen to me carefully. Life won't always go the way you want it to. But when it comes down to it, each of us has the same 24 hours in a day as everyone else does. Successful people make their time count, and they don't waste time ruminating, lamenting, or feeling sorry for themselves, because that's a waste of time. They want to make the best use of time. So instead of complaining about how things could have been or should have been, they reflect on everything they have to be grateful for. They find the best solution available, tackle the problems that are in front of them, and then move on. Now, for somebody that's listening, you may say, I don't know if I can do that. Well, that might be the key to you being successful in life, right? Because listen, there's not a person alive who wouldn't go back and change things if they could. They would make some decisions and they would make them differently if they could go back. I'm sure you would as well. But guess what? The past is the past, and you can never win a fight with the past because you can't change the past. All you can do is move forward. So if you're going to move forward, How do you leave negativity behind and say, okay, you know what? Here are the mistakes I made in the past. Got to own them. I made those mistakes, but I'm not going to stay there. Everybody who's listening right now, everybody who's watching, there are things that have happened to you in your past that you can't change. You can't control what happened in your past, but you can control how you move forward in your future. So while I can't change yesterday, man, I can do something about today. And I certainly can chart a new course and direction for my tomorrow. Successful people have learned how to overcome negativity. When the negativity comes from someone else, successful people avoid it. They set limits and distance themselves from negativity. Now, I'm going to give you something that you may or may not even realize. I met a lady some years ago, and as we were talking, I was telling her about a major news story that was going on. And she had this like blank look on her face. And I said, "You haven't heard about this?" And she said, "No." I said, "Really?" I said, "Man, it's all over the news." Lady said to me, "I don't watch the news." And I said, "Wow, what do you mean you don't watch the news?" She said, "I don't watch the news. It's too negative. There's always killings, murder, rape, robberies. It's always bad news. Matter of fact, the only time you get a little piece of good news is at the very end of the news." And she said, "I don't want that negativity in my life. So I haven't watched the news. I haven't watched the news for about 5 years." Now, can I tell you my initial reaction? I was thinking to myself, oh my God, how could you go 5 years and not watch the news? When the pandemic was in full force and every news story you heard and every news program you saw, they were just adding the deaths and the sicknesses and what was happening and what wasn't happening and the services that weren't provided on top of other deaths and murders and rapes and the like. Man, my wife got to the point, she said, "I can't watch the news." And I was like, "I agree." And we stopped watching the news. I didn't want to hear any more death tolls. I didn't want to hear any more about vaccinations that weren't available or were available and who was getting them and who wasn't getting them. We had to set limits. And we literally had to say, you know what? There are certain things and certain people we just can't go any further with because we don't have the bandwidth. And you have to determine your own bandwidth. Nobody else can determine it for you because everybody else is just thinking about themselves. That's all they're thinking about. They're not thinking about you. A person will drown you to keep themselves alive. That's just the first law of nature, right? The law of self-preservation. If the complainer, if the negative person, you're saying, "Well, listen, man, but they're nice people, they're cool people." Okay, watch this. If the negative person were smoking, would you sit there all afternoon inhaling the secondhand smoke? Right? If the negative person, their smoking was the equivalent of their negativity, would you sit around and inhale the secondhand smoke? Of course not, right? You would distance yourself from the smoke. Some of you are real sensitive to smoke. You can walk in a room and smell if somebody was smoking, if it's in their clothes. Here's what I say to you. If you're sensitive to smoke, become sensitive to negativity. If you're like, "I don't want to be around nobody that smokes," man, take that same posture and say, "I don't want to be around anybody that's negative." And let me give you a little hint on how to stop complainers. Here's a great way to stop complainers. When somebody comes to you and they're negative and they're complaining and they're whining, I don't even care if it's factual. They're just negative. Here's what I asked them. How you going to fix the problem? How you going to fix it? If you don't have a strategy or plan to fix it, stop complaining about it. And there's some people, in my opinion, if they didn't have anything negative to talk about, I don't even know if they would have anything to say. Like, they just seem to love the mess. They love negativity. I've learned, man, when people are negative, how you going to fix it? What you going to do to change it? And if you can't change it, why keep on complaining about it? Because I want to redirect that conversation into a productive conversation, not continue with the negative talk. Here's the sixth thing. Number 6, successful people overcome the past or the future. They overcome the past or the future. Like fear, the past and the future are products of your own mind. No amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. Think about it for a minute. No amount of guilt can change the past. Somebody who's listening right now, what's keeping you from being successful is guilt about your past. No amount of guilt can change your past. And no amount of anxiety or worry can change the future. Successful people know this. And so here's what they do. They focus on living in the present moment. They're not going to live with the guilt from their past, and they're not going to live in a place of anxiety about their future. You cannot reach your full potential if you're constantly somewhere else and not living in the moment. You've got to fully embrace the reality of the moment that you're in. That's the only way you're going to be successful. If you live lamenting the past, you're done. Because remember what I said, you can't change the past, can't overcome the past. And if you're constantly worrying about the future and you're living in that place of anxiety, that's no good either. You've got to make sure you are present to fully embrace where you are. Now, I'm not talking about trading the long game for the short game. I'm talking about while you're living today, not being so preoccupied with tomorrow that you get to a place of worry and anxiety that you can't do what you need to do today to help ensure your success for tomorrow. Here are 2 things that you can do, according to Dr. Bradbury, to live in the moment. 1, accept your past. Accept it. If you don't make peace with your past, it will never leave you and it will create your future. Let me say it again. If you don't make peace with your past, it will never leave you and it will create your future. Successful people know the only good time to look at the past is to see how far you've come. Successful people look back and say, man, look how far I've come. Look at how much better things are now. You don't ever want to stay in war with your past. Because if you stay in war with your past becomes your present, and your present dictates your future. Here's the second thing you got to do. Accept the uncertainty of the future. And when I say accept the uncertainty of the future, understand that there's some things that are just out of your control. So don't place unnecessary expectations on yourself. Worry has no place in the here and now. Is the future uncertain? Sure. So here's what I've learned. I want to do the best I can where I am right now. and then trust that the work I put in my present is going to help me be successful in my future. Mark Twain said it like this: worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. Worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. Past, future, find that sweet spot. Live in the moment and make the decisions you need to make to be successful now so that that can carry over into your future. Well, number 7 is coming up here on Real World, Real Talk. And I hope and pray you've been blessed by this, because, when I read these 7 challenges that successful people overcome, it just reminded me, of the millions of people in the world that people look at and say, man, I look at you. I wish I was you. If I had your hand, I'd throw my hand in, right? How many of you heard that? Maybe you said that to somebody. And what we see is the glory. We don't know the story. We don't see the hours and hours of hard work they put in. We don't see the times that they had to overcome not just the negativity of people around them, but sometimes the negativity that they have internalized in their own lives. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And listen to me carefully. You might be able to blame somebody for where you are. Here's the question: are you going to still blame them for where you decide to stay? I'm not saying your pain is not legitimate. I'm not saying it's not great. I'm not saying you haven't been through a lot. Maybe you have. And it's a testimony that you're still here, right? You are a living testimony. But are you going to allow what happened to you to continue to hold you down and hold you back? Or will you use it as a stepping stone and stop allowing it to be a stumbling block? That decision can only be made by you. Here's the 7th thing that successful people overcome: the state of the world. Now you say, wait a minute, the state of the world. Successful people overcome the state of the world. Keep your eyes on the news for any length of time, and you'll see that it's just one endless cycle of war, violent attacks, fragile economies, failing companies, environmental disasters, man's inhumanity to man. And it's easy to think that the world is headed downhill fast. Global warming, the loss of the sense of right and wrong and integrity in our country. And who knows, the world may be headed downhill fast. But here's what successful people do. Successful people don't worry about that because they don't get caught up in things they can't control. Successful people don't get caught up in things they can't control. You know why? Because they can't control it, which means what? If I'm worrying about things I can't control, if I'm preoccupied about things I can't control, then I'm wasting time. And successful people don't waste time. Successful people redeem the time. They make the most of their time. That's what successful people do. Someone interviewed the late Kobe Bryant, and they were asking him, why did he use helicopters so much? Because Kobe literally used helicopters like people use car services, right? He flew helicopter all the time. And he said, because of time. He said, what takes me 30 to 45 minutes will take me 4 to 5 hours if I were driving. He said, I can get to the gym, I can work out, I can do everything I need to do, get my treatment, fly back home, be home in time to pick my daughter up from school, spend time with my children and my family, and I've had a great day. And I don't waste time in traffic going to and fro. Right? Successful people don't waste time and they don't worry about the things they can't control. Instead, they focus their energy on directing the two things that are completely within their power: their attention and their effort. Now, I want you to think about that. They focus on their attention and they focus on their effort. They focus their attention on all the things they're grateful for, and they look for the good that's happening in the world. That's what they want to focus on, not on the negativity, on the positivity. And when they don't have positivity, you know what successful people do? They create positivity. They focus their effort on doing what they can every single day to improve their own lives and the world around them. Because these are steps that people take to make the world a better place. That's what they focus on. They control their attention and they control their effort. Now, listen to me carefully. I want you to think about your life for a minute. How good a job do you do focusing your attention and your effort on the things that you can control? A lot of times in life, man, we focus on stuff that's outside of our control and we leave undone the things we can control. We leave undone the things that we should do. Successful people focus their effort on doing what they can every single day to improve their own lives and the world around them. 7 challenges that successful people overcome. What do you think about that list? I don't know about you, man. When I thought about it, I was like, man, Dr. Bradbury was spot on. Because when I think about my own life, right, have more days behind me than in front of me. And there were some things that I was literally saying, man, I wish I had started that 10 years ago. I wish I had done that 20 years ago. If I could go back. Then I realized, okay, I didn't do it then, but I have an opportunity to do it now. So let me do it now for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever time I have left. Let me do it now. Let me do the best I can now with the time that I have left. So let's count down. We're going to go back. Make sure you got your pen and piece of paper out. Number 7, state of the world, right? Don't focus on the world, the endless cycles of war, violent crimes, fragile economies, failing companies, environmental disasters, global warming, gas prices going up, morality going down. Don't focus on that. It's not what you want to focus on. Focus on what you can control. Number 6, the past or the future. Focus on right now. Do the best you can right now. Number 5, negativity. Successful people overcome negativity many times by setting up boundaries, setting up limitations, eliminating some people. Don't wait for the negative people to eliminate themselves. They're not. Misery loves company. You have to learn how to fight for your own survival and your own sanity. 4, fear. Fear. False evidence that appears real. Don't allow the fear that's fueled by your imagination to control you. Danger is real. Fear is a choice. Number 3, toxic people. Make sure you eliminate toxic people, not just negative people. Boy, you want to make sure you eliminate negative people, but you want to make sure you eliminate toxic people as well. Toxicity is really dangerous. Number 2, what other people think. Remember, if you live for the approval of other people, you will die from their rejection. And the opinion other people have of you is none of your business. Can you imagine somebody responding because somebody says something negative about them? I mean, like, especially if they're like ignorant, stupid, have nothing going for them. You literally just validated their opinion and validated them as a person by reacting and responding to it. There's some stuff that's just not even worth responding to. Successful people learn how to overcome what other people think. And the first thing, successful people overcome age. They don't let being too young, being too old, being inexperienced stop them from doing what they believe is their purpose. Listen, anybody who's been doing something a long time started at one point with no experience and no background. If they've been doing it 40 years and they're an expert now after 40 years, they started 40 years ago. If they have a bunch of clients now, they started 40 years ago with no clients, because everybody starts from ground zero. All right. This is Dr. DZ Cofield for Real World Real Talk signing off. Listen, I hope and pray you have an enjoyable rest of your evening. And I hope and pray that you do everything you can to be successful in life. Okay. Until next time, God bless is my prayer.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real World Real Talk. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes every week. Follow us via social media using the @RWRTDZ username on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To submit any comments, questions, sponsor opportunities, or future show suggestions, visit us online at rwrtdz.com. or via email at info@rwrtdz.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you've been inspired to be the change you want to see in the world today. Until next time, be real, keep it real, and stay real.